So spring training is well underway for the Cubs, and I love talking about the Cubs because it feels like summer is around the corner, and we got the sun for the first time in England, so it must be baseball season coming up. We're going to talk about the up and coming season for the Cubs, and I'm joined by Cody, who's from Wrigleyville Forever podcast. Thanks so much for coming on. I mean, let's just crack on and just talk about, the biggest story, in my opinion, on the off season was getting Bregman in. We lost Tucker, so you lost
Mhm.
that production there. But to get a guy that high caliber, but to get him for like a 5-year deal as well, who's basically said that he wants to stay, basically end his career as a Cub. How
Mhm.
important was that for the Cubs to get someone like that to come?
Um, well, I think as far as like my temperature of how Cubs fans are on this edition of Alex Bregman is Cubs fans either really like it or they're just kind of whatever. Like I don't think people hate it. I don't, but I also think there's a portion of the fan base that just feels kind of whatever about it, and then people who probably are way too excited about it. And the people who are way too excited about it, in my opinion, as someone who kind of sits in the it's fine deal for me, like it's a good signing. Do I think it moves the needle a ton? Personally, I don't. But when the Cubs are in spring training and the propaganda they're pushing is the intangibles about leadership and all that stuff, I'll give them this. Kyle Tucker didn't bring that to the Cubs. He
Mm.
didn't bring that. He never wanted to be Batman. He was completely fine with being Robin, despite how talented he is as a hitter. So I think Bregman will bring things to this team that people aren't going to give him credit for because other guys theoretically will be better. And I guess us ball knowers will say that Bregman deserves a lot of credit for helping guys get better. My fear is that his first year in Chicago is going to be nothing like what it was in Boston or even in Houston. Does that mean the team will be bad? Not necessarily. I think the team is a playoff team. A lot of things would have to go wrong for this team to miss the playoffs, in my opinion. I personally am just not like gung ho about Alex Bregman on this team. And is it largely because of the numbers? Yes. The only thing that gives me optimism about it is the intangibles, which is something that, again, I don't think Kyle Tucker brought to the team. I was someone who wanted them to keep Tucker. I'm glad they didn't give him the contract the Dodgers did, I guess. But at the same time, like I have a lot of questions about this offense going into 2026. The Cubs are going to need certain guys to take steps forward, and they're going to need, guys who haven't even played a full season to uh, you know, I don't want to say take a step forward, but really establish themselves as a key piece of this team. And the good news is there's a lot of teams that are like that, except for the Dodgers.
Mm.
But this team has all the pieces, all the juice, I guess you could say, to be a top three team in the National League, even top two. So yeah, overall I like the Bregman deal. I'm not like it's the best signing that they could have done. There were other signings that I feel like they could have done that could have put them in this particular situation. But like, overall, though, I am excited to see how he can help affect other players on this team, especially young players like Pete Crow-Armstrong and Matt Shaw.
Yeah, I mean, you say about PCA, I think he kind of reacted like a child when we signed him because he was like, I've texted him about 100 times. I want to learn everything. And that's what I kind of liked about the deal is that PCA is literally like had a really good season and he's still like thinking, right, I need to talk to Bregman. I want to follow him. I want to see what he does. Da, 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 da.
Hmm.
But in terms of, you mentioned just Shaw there, it does leave a bit of an awkward situation, obviously, with Shaw. And I feel like it gets forgotten about Matt Shaw's performance in the second half of the season. Because of the playoff performance that he had. Maybe it was too early for him in his career, maybe. But that second half of the season, he was one of the hottest hitters in baseball at a time where PCA, Tucker was struggling. He carried the team at times, really. The second half of the season, he was a very
They could
important
have
player.
choked the season away if Shaw didn't do what he did.
100%. So like, so my question is like, it feels like we're trying to find a position for him, and spring training is really important for him. It's quite clear, isn't it? Because we're trying to find a place for him. Where do you see Shaw playing for the
Uh,
Cubs?
I I mean, I think we'll see him mostly in right field.
Mm,
Um, because Hap's going to play every day, and you're obviously going to play PCA in center every day.
mm,
Maybe he could see him at third or second base on those like in those game threes of a series. You know, the series finale, the getaway day. Maybe you could see him at some of those spots because like to me like the Cubs have a ton of depth, which means that that should allow them to get guys off their feet. But a lot of these guys they want to play every day and they're going to hold back, you know, however they're feeling about whatever little nagging thing. That's not me, guessing. I just we just got enough evidence of it at this point. You know, Nico Horner 2 years ago played through what was a wrist or a forearm injury the entire season. No one knew anything about it.
mm,
Had surgery before having his best career year last season, right? I commend him for trying to play through things, and it speaks a lot to the type of player he is, type of person he is. And Swanson that same year played, had the knee injury, played for 2 weeks and was terrible before they finally put him on the injured list. There's a long laundry list of how the Cubs have handled certain players with injuries. So I'm not going to sit here and rag on him too much about it because everyone just kind of knows. But the point I'm getting at here is for Shaw, when I think about how they're going to find a spot for him, I think about, well, did they find a spot for Willie Castro in the second half of last season?
mm.
Yes. So much so that fans were tired of him because he was atrocious for them. Craig Counsell will find a way to get Matt Shaw in the lineup. My only hope is that it doesn't take away from at bats for Moises Ballesteros.
Mm.
That's it. And they got this outfield situation or competition between McCormick and Carlson and I guess Kevin Alcantara, Michael Conforto, who just signed. Like, there's a lot of these fourth type outfielders or guys who are trying to revive their career in the spring with the Cubs, and it's going to be interesting to see who makes it to the opening day roster and which ones are going to be fine with going to Iowa to kind of hang out until they're needed. But Shaw, he's going to make the opening day roster because of his versatility, I think, and because the Cubs they still believe highly in him. Like,
Mm.
it's very clear. If they didn't, they would have traded him after
Mm.
signing Bregman, and they didn't. And whether it's because Horner's in a walk year or not, I don't think Horner is going to cost the Cubs so much money to where they just know that they have to keep Shaw. Like I think Horner will be affordable for them. But yeah, I think that Shaw will find at bats. I think I said on my show that he will get over 500 at bats this year. He will still
Mm.
manage to get over 500 at bats because injuries happen, and last year's team was pretty lucky when it came to health on the position player side outside of Kyle Tucker. So I just expect there to be some regression there. There will be an injury. I mean, as we're recording, Tyler Austin, it was reported he's hurt. He's gonna miss quote months, right? So like anything can happen, and I just think that the depth is good and Matt Shaw he will get his at bats. I'm not worried about it personally.
Cool. I mean, so you talked about right field there, and obviously with Tucker gone, Suzuki's probably going to take that position. Well, he will be.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, he pretty much played there anyway for the most of the second half of the season because Tucker had that weird injury, and then before even that, he played that position for a couple of seasons anyway. He is prone to make mistakes, though, isn't he, in that position? Are you
Yeah.
concerned around that? And I'm not worried about his hitting because he was fantastic last season, but
Right.
playing in the field, how do you feel?
I just think Seiya Suzuki's defense is average at best, and he gets way too much flack for like some big moments where things didn't go right, like the drop ball in Atlanta. I
Mm.
think even last year he was out in right field at Wrigley and lost one in the sun. I know he lost one in the sun in center field at Sloan Park just the other day. Like that's
Yeah,
been the
first game.
problem. To me, he just loses the ball in the sun. Sure, sometimes he'll take a bad route or whatever. I just don't as much as like at the beginning of this past offseason, I was like, we can't have Seiya play right field because you just played him DH all year because you didn't feel good about his defense, and now you suddenly feel better about it. Why?
Mm.
Because he was fine for you in the postseason? If so, then I mean that's a risk, but we're gonna see. At the same time, I don't think he's Nick Castellanos in right field. Like Nick Castellanos,
Mm.
from a defensive metric standpoint, is terrible
Mhm.
defensively. Seiya's probably average to just below average, like right at that tier. So I don't see it being a problem. And this is why I mentioned Moises Ballesteros and how his at bats are going to be affected. Like, Say is going to play right field mostly, uh, and Ballesteros will DH, but there will be days where they'll probably play Shaw in right field and Say at DH. It's probably when they face lefties. So, we'll see how they figure that all out. But I generally think that Seiya will be fine in right field. Um, I would love to see what I've never looked this up, but I would love to see his like home road splits like for defensive metrics. I have no idea. I don't even know if you can look that up to be honest with you. I would love to know like what he is as a defensive right fielder at Wrigley compared to on the road because everyone knows it's talked about a lot. Right field at Wrigley Field is one of the hardest positions to play in that ballpark, and has he ever lived up to like what we were sold? No, but I just don't think he's atrocious to where you
Mhm.
can't put him out there.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And obviously, another big signing for the Cubs was Cabrera. You know, I'm quite
Mm,
excited about our start rotation. You know, you got him and you got Horton. If he carries on like he was before his injury, then we've got a hell of a player, haven't we? And he's young, and I mean,
mm-hmm.
that'd be unreal. Boyd, I mean, he's an all-star player, consistent last season. Still is going to come back. When's still coming back? Do you know? I keep hearing mixed
I
reports.
Yeah, I don't think there's a date, but I've mentally told myself we shouldn't expect him until June.
Right, okay.
But I could see it being earlier. I just don't think it would be smart. I think that
Yeah.
they should be very, very, very careful here and not rush him back. Maybe he gets brought back a little bit earlier because maybe you experience too many injuries in your rotation. That
Mhm.
would be the worst case scenario, right? Like
Yeah.
to where a point to where it's like you need him. I feel like anything Justin Steele gives the Cubs this year is just a bonus.
Mhm.
It really is. And because I just don't know what he's going to be off that injury. And best case scenario, he comes back, maybe he struggles in the beginning, but second half of the year, he kind of finds it, and you got him pitching his best ball going into the postseason. And that's a dog. That's a guy
Mhm.
that can carry you, and he finds a way to get outs with stuff that isn't exactly overpowering. So he would be a huge he should be a huge um, addition to this team. I also think it's worthy of question of what should we expect, and
Mhm.
I just don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I've got to ask about Shotta as well because it's a very odd situation, isn't it? Because I mean, he's been with the Cubs for 2 years, and you root for him so bad because he's just a genuine
Great,
guy. The
great dude.
fans love him. He's got a
Mhm.
great connection. You know, he sings the Cub songs in award ceremonies. You know, he loves being a Cub.
The shower
And
commercial on Marquee is
it's
funny.
like,
Yeah.
and for a
Mm.
year and a half, he was absolutely outstanding. But you can't ignore that drop
Yeah.
that second half of last season when we went to the playoff elimination against our rivals, Brewers, and we are playing a bullpen type game instead of playing a fully rested shot. It kind of summed up where he was at that point.
Sure.
I mean, I believe he deserves another chance. Um,
Mhm.
how do you feel with Shotta coming in? Do you feel like he can come back, or are you concerned?
I think everyone should be concerned, like
Mhm.
until proven otherwise. Like that doesn't mean that we shouldn't root for him. Like
Yeah.
that guy goes out on the mound the first time at Wrigley Field this year. Like we should all like cheer for him and be excited. But I do think there's room for question. Now on the flip side, pitched his first spring training game the other day, was topping out at like 93, 94. That's a good sign because last year he was, his fastball was around 90, 91. And he and the Cubs have been pushing the whole hamstring injury just not being,
Mhm.
it hampering how he pitched down the stretch, which makes me wonder like it brings me back to the injury thing. Like, why did you let him pitch then? Like he didn't help himself. Whether that's on him for trying to battle it out and all these things, I get it. But again, this is a whole side point. But if he's throwing 93, 94, which is something he wasn't even doing in 2024, and he's fully healthy now, I think there's room for optimism there. And he looked good in the first appearance. So, I'm cautiously optimistic just because we have seen him be great. And also, like, he's kind of set up to be in what, your fifth best starter right now? Like, with the ability to perhaps be a top three starter if he does get back to what he was in 2024 or even the first half of the year last season before the hamstring injury. There's a lot of scenarios that could happen with him. Like, he's kind of one of the wild cards. You know what I mean? But also he could just give up 3 homers a game and just give up 30 homers before the All-Star break. Yeah,
Mhm.
like he missed 6 weeks last year and he still gave up 30 homers last year, like over 30 homers. So again, I think there's room for concern, but also room for optimism. And if he's your fifth best starter, then there are worse fifth best. There's worse starters to have in the 5 hole, and then you got good depth too. I like that Ben Brown has added a sinker this spring. He's
Mhm.
shown that he's looked good. He looked good in his first outing. That's a guy that's just good depth. I know no Cub fan believes in him right now, but adding that third pitch is big for him. I think. Javier Assad. You have Colin Ray, who was awesome for you last night or last year in the role. And we were just talking about Steele. Like right now, I think the Cubs are going to go to a 6-man rotation if healthy, right? One, especially once Steele gets back. So, you know, I think that there Shota's not in a position where he has to feel like he has to carry the rotation. Something I felt like he probably felt like either at the beginning of last season or and even at points in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, he was the ace, wasn't he? When he started, you felt like you're going to win, and then
Yeah.
obviously it kind of flipped a bit. But I mean, it's funny you're talking about the injuries because it felt like the Cubs weren't very transparent with the fans. Because I remember Tucker. I remember when he hit a ball and he didn't run to first base and he got booed, didn't he? And then it came out that he was actually injured, and then we took time to put him on the injury. Oh, it was a mess. But I mean, as a team
Yeah.
as a whole, I mean, obviously the Brewers are a well organized team. You know, they've lost their ace, haven't they? So now, can you
It
see us
doesn't
finishing?
matter.
No, that's what I
It
mean.
doesn't matter.
It
Yeah.
feels like Green Bay in a way. It's like they're very like well functioned team. Do you
Yeah.
think we're gonna finish above them? And
I think what I think is a lot different than what I feel. My emotional feel says that the Brewers are going to just do this Brewer thing, this devil magic shit
Mhm.
that doesn't make any sense, and they're going to outperform expectations on the margins in a big way. And it's going to be with replacements of Caleb Durbin and Isaac Collins, whoever those replacements are. And then Christian Yelich and Jackson Churio, one of those two will have a better season than anyone is expecting, and Jacob Mizorowski will emerge as the ace. That's what I feel. That's what I feel. Like that's what my
Mhm.
gut tells me because I'm just so used to seeing this stuff that doesn't make sense. What my head tells me is that the Cubs have more depth, they have more experience, and they have more room for error than the Brewers. And what I mean by more room for error is like if so and so has a down season, then that might open up an opportunity for another player that could keep this team afloat. Or, if they sustain some injuries in the starting rotation, they still have all those guys that I just mentioned who've shown that they can go out there and start games for you, right? I feel like the floor for the Cubs is higher than the Brewers this year. The Brewers last year over exceeded expectations in a way that like it's actually incredible that they got swept by the Dodgers. Like I think that speaks to how good that Dodgers team was. The fact that they swept the Brewers, considering everything went right for the Brewers last year, literally everything. Will that happen again in 2026? I just don't think not at that extent, not at that extent. So I got in talking this all out, it's almost like it makes me feel good because normally it's like my head says that they're good enough to go do this, and my gut feels like, well, the Cubs are better than them. But this year it's kind of reverse. Like I don't know if the Brewers have a floor as high as the Cubs, and I could see the division still being close in some ways, but I just also don't see the Brewers going on a what was that insane run in the second half last year? The one
I
like
think they had two insane runs, didn't they? So
yeah,
I
they
think
went
they
like
had two.
29 and 4 over a course of like 35 games or whatever.
I think they won 12 games in a row twice or
Yeah.
something. Like it
Like
was,
do they have a run like that in them this
yeah.
year? Like I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
Also, the curse of the L flag is a thing. Like I need it to be a thing. I
Yeah,
really do.
yeah,
Um,
100%. I mean, I don't know if you saw the article about PCA that's just come out about 2 days ago, I think it was.
yeah.
It was very I mean, he doesn't mince his words, does he? He said about the Dodger fans compared to the Cubs fans and all that kind of thing. But I mean, he's openly saying, I want to be a Cub for the rest of my
Mhm.
career, basically. I know he
Yeah.
rejected a an offer at the beginning of last season. Obviously, it's a no-brainer. Like we got to extend him.
Mhm.
Can you see this being done this season, or is it going to be a kind of a waiting game, do you think?
I'll just say that if it doesn't get done this season, it'll probably be because of the upcoming
Hmm.
collective bargaining thing. Like that's what my heart will want to say. The Cubs should find a way to keep this guy for more than just the team control years. He's going to be 24 this year. Uh, the guy loves Chicago. He's hanging out with our quarterback. He's hanging out with Connor Bedard and Modest Mazelis as well. Like he has embraced Chicago. I mean, this kid is from Los Angeles, Southern California, went to one of the more premier high school baseball programs. Like this, he has every reason to want to, like, especially in the offseason, to like go back to LA and just hang out, do his thing in the offseason. This kid spent majority of the offseason in Chicago during the worst months of the year when you talk about the weather. Okay. What the extension rumored extension offer to him last year was what, like, I think it was worth like 70 or 80 million, something like
Hmm.
that. It came out in like mid-April, like right before he like got extremely hot.
Hmm.
Like I think it came out and then the Cubs went to LA and he had an
Hmm.
insane series. Right. And I remember the discourse about that contract offer. People were dogging him because he didn't take it because they didn't
Hmm.
think he was good enough.
Hmm.
And then he plays like an MVP for 4 months, and people are like, "Man, the Cubs almost lowballed this guy."
Hmm.
Um, based off what he said in terms of the contract extensions, like I don't think he's going to be out there trying to get the most money for center fielders in baseball, but he did say something along the lines like he doesn't want to screw up the market for other center fielders. Like he wants to be paid fair, and um, the Cubs will also just make so much money off him. Like
Hmm.
he's a young star in Major League Baseball. It's not even just Cubs fans who like this guy. He also is so like plays with such a flair that he's also one of the most hated players in baseball.
Hmm.
And it creates attention and people were talking about you. And like again, that's just more money for the Cubs. They will forget about whether if the deal is good, if you're going to win the deal or not. Just find a way to keep this guy for a few more years while also those team control years. Pay him a whatever amount. He's definitely worth more than the few million he's going to make this year. You have clean books going into 2026, like very clean books. There's so many guys off the books that they could easily do it, man. And
Mhm.
I think his demeanor in spring training right now is not like the last 2 years. Like he's coming into spring training with a different mindset, like a very serious mindset. Like he didn't even dye his hair blue this spring. You know, like he is coming off very different, very a lot more serious. He's still fun, obviously. He still has a smile and still gonna say the same old stuff that he says when it comes to joking around and stuff. But I sense a different demeanor. In that Chicago Magazine article, I think really displayed a lot of what I'm talking about with, you know, how much he wants to win and all this. And so it's a long-winded answer of yes, they should do whatever it takes to extend PCA, but it's not the end of the world if they don't because he's under control through 2030. But if you extending a guy like that to show that like we want to build this organization around you, like that speaks volumes, man. And they again, Nico Horner, Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ. Those are two of those. Well, one of those three at least are considered leaders on this team. One of the other one is the longest tenured Cub, and then you know the third one is leads the team in homers, and like we'll see what happens. But you're if you don't bring back either of those three, and then you don't extend PCA. Like if I'm PCA, then after this season, it's kind of like what direction are we trying to go to? You know, like who's the leader of this team? Is it just Dansby Swanson and Alex Bregman? Like great, those are good players, but they're let's just be honest about it, they're past their prime. Like they're fine. They're good players. They're good players to keep your floor high. But who's the superstar on this team? It's very clear who the superstar on this team is, even as of today, where the last time we saw PCA play was at the end of a really bad 2.5 months. I think most Cubs fans and most baseball fans are optimistic that he gets back to more of that first 4 months this season, just because offseason adjustments and stuff, and also just like he has so many tools too. The
Mhm.
defense, his base running, speed, all that. A very unique player. Not a lot of players like
Mhm.
him out there, man.
Ah, you might not know this guy, but he was an English footballer in the 90s. And I always say to my English friends, PCA is like Paul Gascoigne for England because he was a character. He used to dye his hair, but he was exciting to watch. He put bums on seats, and that is what PCA does. I think he's just easy marketing, isn't he, really? Because he's just,
Yeah.
and he's
I don't know who
begging.
you're talking about, but
I
yeah,
know,
he
but
is
he's
easy
that
to
type of guy.
market.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, like PCA is just. I mean, he's begging to stay. Let's just get it done.
Yeah.
But I mean, one last.
I just think that again, like it's not the biggest deal in the world if they don't get it done this
Mhm.
season, but it will only be talked about more the
Yeah,
longer we go along. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I can't see him signing for Dodgers anytime soon. That's for sure. After what he said, but
Yeah, yeah, right.
I mean, one last question. Obviously, the World Expedition's coming up. USA have got to play my country, Great Britain. I
You guys
mean,
got
we've
better
got
jerseys this year?
yeah, yeah, a little bit. They've styled it up a little bit better. Look, I think
Uh,
even the teams even like admitted saying, "Is this better?" kind of thing, and
yeah,
then put the poster of it. But I mean,
yeah.
like obviously we've got Harry Ford. He plays for the Nationals, and we've got Chisholm from the Yankees. Um, but I mean, that American team is probably the best baseball team you could put together, really, isn't it? I mean, how are you
Mhm.
feeling for the US team? I mean, you've got to win it all, aren't you? Really? I know Japan might be.
Ye- Yeah, I mean they're coming back looking for revenge against Japan, right? It feels like those two teams are going to be playing for it all at the end again. It feels like, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, for me, I'm more excited about the World Baseball Classic than I ever have been, but I think it's largely just because there's three Cubs that are going to be on the team.
Mhm.
Like PCA is going to be starting center fielder. If he's not, then Mark DeRosa needs like to be he needs to be talked to because for defense alone, he should be out there. Um, Alex Bregman, expect to see him at third base a lot. Uh, you just at the beginning of this podcast talked about his leadership and all how that affects other players on the team and how everyone talks about that. Like I'm sure that will be big. I would love to see him have a big moment, just because it will get Cubs fans even more excited about the upcoming
Mhm.
season. And then Matt Boyd, who, listen, a lot of people are giving Tarek Skubal crap because he only wants to pitch one game and it's probably going to be against Great Britain. But like, if I'm a Tigers fan, I'm happy to hear this. All right, I am just hoping that Matt Boyd comes out of this fine.
Yeah.
Just like wrap him in bubble wrap, you know.
Mhm.
If you don't even need to use him, don't use him. But they're
Mhm.
gonna use him, right? I I think it's a great event. It's definitely grown more than I ever thought it would because I really have never been into it except for going into this year. I am excited. And like I said, I do think it's largely because there are Cubs on the team. But the pitchers, it does scare me. Like they're so fragile these days. Like I just need Matt Boyd to be healthy, man. So
I mean,
yeah,
they're only allowed to pitch 3 innings, I think. I think,
something like that. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and
And they're not all the way revved up anyway. So it's not like if
yeah.
even if Boyd wanted to, it wouldn't be smart for him to go out there and pitch for 6 innings or whatever.
Mhm.
So,
And the Cubs' first baseman coach is on the Team GB
I
side,
believe so.
so
Yeah. David Ross is also like a bench coach. Yeah.
nice. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. They've got watch parties in the UK and stuff for it and stuff. It's like it's really taken off here. So, and
Yeah.
I talked to a guy last week or 2 weeks ago, sorry, who works for the team, and he's just said like the passion for it's just gone mental in the UK. So, I'm
It's
really
awesome.
excited. But no,
It's
but
great
like,
to that's great to hear from someone in America, and they're always preaching to us about how they want the game to get more global. So yeah, it's very cool to hear that the popularity of this event is skyrocketing over there.
100%. But no, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. But yeah, let's hope for a good season for the Cubs, and hopefully Great Britain gives you a bit of a game for a bit of the game anyway. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate you for having me on, and make sure that we'll be making sure that the Cubs are having have a good season, or at least we'll be following it along. If you don't check out the podcast, check it out, and anyone who listens to this who comes and checks it out, let me know, and I'll make sure to let you know. So.
100%.